What's up guys, this is HeaT. I wanted to do a commentary video on a Merv Kill race in which I did pretty well in. I got number 1 Shadow, number 2 overall, and scored an 18-minute 51-second kill. But I wanted to do something new. I wanted to compare my run, which is in the upper left, to RaizQT's run, who is in the bottom right, where he placed 2nd Shadow and scored an 18-minute 58-second kill, so there's a 7-second difference. For those of you who don't know, RaizQT is a popular Path of Exile streamer and a well-known racer in the community, and I just thought it'd be particularly interesting to do a side-by-side comparison of our runs in this video, because I'm hoping there will be some good insight into what decisions and plays can sway results, the results of a race where the difference is only 7 seconds. So one thing to note is, the commentary that I'm doing is reflective of my own racing style, skill, and thought process. So by all means, it's not the end-all of racing commentary because it can be subjective. It's just one perspective, so keep that in mind. So one important aspect of racing is minimizing the time that you spend in town and with vendors. And in this case, I was a little bit more efficient, but that advantage is nominal because he did get a 1-to-5 lightning damage to spells wand, which is a pretty nice DPS advantage. So at this point, I think we're pretty even. So coming out to coast, I make a pretty bad inventory management choice here, where I wasted a second or two switching out Fire Trap because one of the zombies clipped me as it was running by, so it stopped my movement, and then I also stopped my movement again to actually socket the fire gem. So he probably has a slight advantage in terms of time right now, and you can see that in the video because he'll hit Tidal Island before I do. Once you get to Tidal Island, you have to make a decision whether you go left or right, and sometimes there's a giveaway on which direction you should go, but I couldn't really read it, so I just chose left because that's the way the map was flowing, and so did Raiz. So we both went the same way, so neither of us really have an advantage. I think if somebody did go right in this race, they would have had a little bit more of an advantage and got to Hellrake faster. So we approached the Hellrake fight differently in this situation. I chose to kite backwards and deal with the ads and sort of use the wall here to kill Hellrake, and he chose to push forward and use the wall of the boat with Spark, so Spark bounces off the boat frequently and kills Hellrake faster. I tried to do that against the wall because it was narrow in my instance, but it wasn't as quick as his Hellrake kill, so he probably made a better decision, and that was a faster play. One thing I did find strange is he actually didn't use the wand that he bought from the vendor that had 1-to-5 lightning damage to spells, which is a strange choice because I feel that's stronger than just using a dagger. Now, even though he was first in town and first to kill Hellrake over me, he's going to be second to come out and coast, and that's because I spent less time in town with the vendors than he did. He looked for a little bit more stuff than I did. He looked for a scepter and for a wand that possibly had more damage or a +1. I didn't look for those, but we did both look for movement speed. So even though he had that slight advantage on Hellrake, I was able to push out quicker than he did. I want to take a look at a play that Raiz does here in Mudflats that I found kind of questionable and would have played it a little bit different. And that's where he makes his way to the 3rd nest. This is the 2nd nest right here, and at this point he's exhausted his Quicksilver Flask. Now coming to the 3rd nest, there's a pack of blue Roas and a little bit of white mobs. Now he's in a situation where if he spent a little bit more time to kill those Roas, he would have leveled to level 3, meaning his Quicksilver would have been fully charged. And I feel this is especially important going into Lower Submerged because the first part of Lower Submerged is completely empty, so you don't have the opportunity to kill enemies to gain charges. So going into Lower, if you have 2 Quicksilver charges, you can get out of that branch much quicker and have a much more efficient kill and movement speed sort of managing than what you would if you just go in with no Quicksilvers. That's I don't know, it could be subjective, but I feel like it could have been played a little bit better. In lower submerge, Raiz has a huge advantage here because he is able to read the map better than I am, and he has a straight shot to ledge. I, on the other hand, get lost, run into a dead end, have to backtrack, so I lose a lot of time. So this is the first time in the race where I feel he has a commanding lead and a huge advantage that would actually make a significant impact on end results. One other thing to note is I did just get Flame Totem drop, which is a really nice RNG advantage, especially for boss fights. So that is going to play some sort of role in how well I placed as a Shadow. So at this point in the race, Raiz probably has a 30-35 second advantage coming into ledge because he hit it that much earlier than I did. And there isn't really much commentary in ledge because it's pretty straightforward. We both had sort of similar pack size, and there's a couple blue packs in there, so there isn't too much pack size advantage from my point of view. So I'm going to let ledge play out without much commentary. Coming into the climb, Raiz still has a 30-35 second advantage, meaning our ledges were fairly similar. I don't think anyone was more efficient in getting through ledge than the other. One thing about climb that was interesting was that there was a HeaT shrine, which was hard to miss, so we both got that. I'm pretty sure everyone who did the race probably got that shrine. Another thing is I got a glass blowers bubble, which I immediately used on my Quicksilver. Maybe a nominal advantage, it's only 5%, but you know, it's still something. Now, lower prison is where things get interesting, and it's one significant turning point in the race where Raiz loses an advantage and loses a lot of seconds compared to the choice that I make. So what he does is he goes up right, which is actually the wrong way to go, and it causes him to loop around and lose a lot of time. My choice is going down left, which is the choice I always make, because if that's wrong, it's usually pretty short, so you can circle back. So he loses a lot of time here. The other play that causes Raiz to lose a lot of lead is this particular blue pack with chatters here. He spends a lot of time on this blue pack. It's about 30 seconds from the time he sees it to the time he actually leaves the pack. And that's quite a bit of time to spend on one pack. So this, coupled with the fact that he went right instead of left, has completely changed the race, and now I basically have the advantage and have a plus like 5 to 10 second lead, which is a sway of about 45 seconds that I have made up because of the decision that he made at the waypoint in lower prison. So this is a huge turning point. The other significant thing that happened in this time span was I did get a chance orb drop, and I chanced my scepter, which is blue linked, and it rolled +1 to lightning gems, which is really strong, meaning that I can added lightning and spark, and both of them will be +1, so that will make boss fights like Brutus and Merveil go much faster. In that same time, Raiz rolls +1 the cold gems on his scepter, which he can utilize on his freeze pulse, but he chooses to use spark for most of the Merveil fight, and then he does switch to freeze pulse a little bit into it. I get another significant RNG drop here, another transmute, but I used it on a scepter, which is blue-red-red, in hopes of getting some sort of damage, but I feel like that might have been misused. I probably would have been better off using it on a pair of boots to get movement speed. So that might have been a misplay on my part, but RNG right now is not too bad with the chance and the transmute, and +1 to lightning gems. Up until this point in the race, we both read Upper Prism fairly well and didn't get lost. However, I got a little bit lucky here because I saw the entrance to the Brutus fight, and he didn't. So that's going to cost him some time because he's going to have to backtrack. The other thing I did particularly well is I timed a level up right before entering this zone. And that's really good because it refreshed my adrenaline pot and it helped me move quicker to the boss fight. My Brutus fight went pretty well. There's a little trick that you can do with Brutus is to lead him into this room. You bait him into the room, and then you just cast Spark, which bounces a lot off the walls and gets a lot of hits in, and you can kind of burst him down. I wasn't able to successfully do that well, but it didn't matter that much because I had +1 on Spark, and I also had Flame Totem, which still ended up killing him pretty fast. Now, obviously, I'm at an advantage right here because I did kill Brutus faster due to what happened in upper and lower. However, I did make some mistakes and did hit a dead end, so Raiz was able to make this up and actually even it out by the time that we hit Ship Graveyard. He's actually a little bit ahead when we hit that zone. One thing that I found strange here is that Raiz chooses to use a chromatic on these boots. I'm not really sure what he was trying to achieve with that, but I probably would have used that chromatic on my scepter that has +1 to cold gems, hoping to roll 2 blues, because if you have 2 blues, then you can do added lightning to freeze pulse and a +1, which is pretty powerful. Maybe better than a spark with added lightning and a non-+1. So Ship Graveyard is another zone in the race where there's a significant impact on what the results could have been. Because at this point in time, we were basically even coming into this zone. However, he reads it much better than I do. I get lost, whereas he really doesn't, and this allows him to get a huge advantage going into the Caverns. A couple things coming into Cavern of Wrath. One advantage that Raiz has is coming in first, and the other one is he is actually appropriately leveled to the point where he's able to use Flame Dash in this zone. I, however, am not and can't use Flame Dash, and so I'm at a disadvantage because I can't move as quickly, I can't skip enemies, etc. So right now he's in a really strong position compared to where I am. So this is when things get crazy, and it's probably one of the most important shifts that happens. At this point, he basically enters the Merveil fight, as I'm more or less just entering this zone. So you would think that he has a huge advantage in this fight and that he's going to come up on top. But he actually doesn't, and let's take a look at why that is. So we both choose to use Spark in this fight. However, during her ad phase where she summons her weapons, it's kind of inefficient depending on your positioning and RNG, because those weapons will tend to eat up sparks. And when that happens is basically those sparks don't hit Merveil, so it takes you longer to kill her. However, what you can do is you can use Freeze Pulse to kill those ads immediately and then use Spark, which I think he figures out that that is a little bit more efficient to do, because he switches to that strategy, probably because he's realizing that he's not killing her very quickly. Now, the other disadvantage that he's at is he only has a small mana pot, and that means that he has to TP out at least one time if he doesn't kill efficiently, and he does it twice actually. One advantage, or a couple advantages that I do have, is I have +1 to lightning, which I have added lightning and spark in, and I also have flame totem. Part of the reason I was able to come up first Shadow over Raiz is because I actually had decent RNG. I had a +1 to lightning, and I also had flame totem drop, which is pretty huge for boss fights and allowing me to kill Brutus and Merveil much quicker. However, even with the advantage that I had in RNG, he still had a significant lead in when he entered the Merveil fight that he should have held his position and gotten #1 Shadow overall. So the question is, why didn't that happen? Ultimately, I think I was outplayed in every aspect of the race except a few points. These points that I will talk about and my gem and weapon RNG were what swayed it in my favor by 7 seconds. So one thing I feel is that I was more efficient in minimizing the time I spent in town and vendors. So I consistently spent less time in every instance where the game actually forces you to go back to town. The other huge factor was lower prison. I just read it significantly better. Raiz lost a significant lead by going up right and spending a lot of time on that blue pack with chatters. This is probably a 40 to 45 second sway that would have resulted in him winning #1 Shadow overall. Also, the end leg of my upper prison was slightly better. And then lastly, my Merv Kill was more efficient and clean, and not just because of the +1 and the Flame Totem. The quality of the boss fight itself was slightly better played by me. At least I feel so. If you rewatch the fight, there are times where Raiz chooses to stand in Merv's second form pillars and screams, which actually slows you down. There were also slight nuances like positioning, which allowed me to kill her faster. I hope this was insightful and you guys learned something, because I took away some experience from watching a race side by side that I wouldn't have otherwise. Thanks for watching.